And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachoo. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter this stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Welcome to San Diego, California, Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18, dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, throws up the heads intercepted at the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 25, 20, Derek Brooks all the way, there it is, the dagger's in, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
On 3rd and 3, they protect Brady. Scans the field and lets it fly. It's Evans. It's a touchdown.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Bucs win, and week one overreactions are back on a brand new episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Welcome to the 2022 football season, ladies and gentlemen. An awesome slate of games here on the first Sunday of the year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Cowboys wrap things up for us on Sunday Night Football, 19-3. Your final score, and this one, first and foremost, on the pregame show, we talked about it being a potentially lower scoring game than it was. Not as much offensive fireworks per se as there was week one of 2021. But Leonard Fournette, the run game, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, they went out there and they handled business today. And I don't think a lot of people are looking at the silver lining in this game, because obviously we have some things to talk about. But just like I mentioned at the top of the show, man, these overreactions have been a little bit wild tonight. And the fact of the matter is, the Bucs just beat the Cowboys with a healthy Dak Prescott for 4.5 quarters. They held him to 3 points, and they beat him by more than 3 possessions. So, I mean, really, the thing that I'm taking away from this is that, a lot of what we said on the pregame show, a lot of what you said on the season prediction show, the pregame show, the defense is ready. Obviously, a little bit of work to do there on the offensive line, but the fact of the matter is the Bucs wanted to establish the run, and they did just that. It was a slow-paced game, but it was efficient, and a win is a win.
Absolutely. And if you're just joining us from Mr. Bucks Nation's live stream, we appreciate the support. I'm Evan, of course. We didn't really do any introductions. I'm Evan.
No, we gotta get right back down to business. People know who we are. I am your host, as always, Rhett Matthew. Join alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucks fan himself from BucksNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. He likes the long, drawn-out introduction. That's really what that boils down to.
Yeah.
You like the hard sell.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But a win is a win. And, we're here to discuss it. There's going to be good. There's going to be bad. There's going to be everything in between. The defense was really impressive. And, the offense, obviously, I think the reason I said I thought the defense was going to be ahead of the offense in this stage is because the defense is going to be working in a lot of not the defense, sorry, the offense is going to be working on a lot of new pieces, right? There's some shuffling on the offensive line. There's some wide receivers and stuff. The defense is relatively the same. So I thought the defense was going to do well. As we have a $5 super chat from Brandon Michael. Thank you a lot, Brandon. Appreciate it. Let's go. Secondary looks way better so far this year. Hopefully we keep this up. Brady will only play better, and Julio, NFL better be on alert. We'll talk about that as we have another $2 super chat from Mr. Bucks Nation, James. Me and the crew are here. Go Bucks, he says, in all capitals, so you know he means it. Thank you a lot, James. Appreciate it. And yeah, there was a lot of good, and like I said, we'll be able to talk about it. We don't have any updates right this second on Chris Godwin, Donovan Smith, so just to get that out of the way, Todd Bowles' press conference is going to be happening here shortly. We'll find out, maybe something. We don't know. We don't know anything right this second, though.
First half impressions as we start to really dive into this game. We'll talk about the offense and the defense here in a minute, but it was a much closer game than a lot of people were comfortable with in the first half, and it's totally understandable. A couple of injuries popped up and a couple of reasons for people to feel concerned. Obviously, Chris Godwin ruled out for the rest of the game with a hamstring injury. He re-aggravated that right knee. Not 100% sure if it correlates to the ACL, MCL, but it's not a great sign, and a lot of people are also seem up in arms saying that, oh, he was rushed back.
It was his call, I think. Now, I will say we don't know the severity of the hamstring, right? It could have just been a little tweak and the Bucs said, no, like you're out. We don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. I think Donovan Smith's injury is a little bit more worrisome to me because that guy's a warrior. He rarely misses time. So him not being able to continue sort of worries me. As we said earlier, if you guys are just joining in for Mr. Bucks Nation live stream, we really appreciate all the support. Hope you guys stick around, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Really hope so. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the game here for the next 45 minutes to an hour.
Now, talking about the loss of Donovan Smith, I feel like we just kind of need to get all the bad news out of the way early. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
First half impressions.
Not much bad, though. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, could be better, but, for the most part, a lot of people looked at the offensive line, and a lot of people weren't very happy after the first half of play for the offensive line. Losing Donovan Smith is going to do a big part of that, but they felt it on the left side of that offensive line. Actually, a handy stat here from Jenna Lane of ESPN. According to ESPN's pass block win rate powered by NFL Next Gen Stats, not paid, they had a 46% pass block win rate on the offensive line, which would have ranked last in the NFL last year. It's all been on the left side. Donovan Smith, 57%. Josh Wells, 60%. Micah Parsons, that first half, he was a force to be reckoned with. And I think long-term, a lot of people started to get worried about how the rest of the game was going to play out if he continued to just tee off on Tom Brady like he was.
Yeah, the Bucs found some answers, though, in the second half. And they didn't have to do much in the second half because they had that one. It felt like that, too. It felt like they needed that touchdown. And then once they got it, it was going to be, all right, like the game's fully in control. They came up with some answers. Parsons was on one tonight because he even gave Wirfs the business on a few times. So, look, Josh Wells is Josh Wells. But at the same time, I think we have to acknowledge just how good Micah Parsons is. Micah Parsons had 13 sacks last year and was the defensive rookie of the year for a reason. So that guy is a damn good football player. So, Josh Wells, yeah, okay. I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. I don't think he's good, but I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. But, Donovan Smith was getting beat by him too. Tristan Wirfs got beat by Parsons. It's going to happen. You just hope that Donovan Smith's injury isn't long-term because, again, you got 3 more games against the Saints, Packers, and Chiefs. So you're going to need him, hopefully in those games, you're going to need him. And if it's Wells, you're going to need Wells to play well. So, it is a little bit worrisome that he wasn't able to go out there because, like I said, he doesn't really miss much time, but they found some answers. And you said the left side, it was just the left tackle. How about, shout out to Luke Gedeke tonight. Played really well, I thought. Had a few hiccups early on, I think. Got away with a hold or two, but, I mean, other than that, really overall positive. I was really impressed by Robert Hainsey as well. And I really thought Gedeke and Hainsey were a big reason why the run game was so powerful tonight, and it really led the way.
Offensively, let's talk about what else the Bucs were able to do well. And you had just mentioned one of them, run the ball. One of the things that, became clear throughout the first half of this contest is that the Buccaneers wanted to establish the run. And we had hinted on that throughout the course of the offseason. Like Todd Bowles would
to shift it over to the defense really quick, because we have a super chat from Darnell Baylor. Thank you a lot, Darnell. $2 super chat. The secondary looks together. Defense is back. We agree. We'll get to the defense here in a little bit.
So Leonard Fournette running the ball tonight, he got 16 carries in the first half. Or actually, no, not 16 carries just for him in the first half, but the offensive breakdown in the first half for Tampa Bay. Tom Brady threw the ball 16 times, and they ran the ball 16 times, which also included 2 designed runs for Julio Jones, which got 17 yards. We'll talk about his game as well here shortly. But Leonard Fournette, man, you got to give him his flowers for this one. 21 carries, 127 yards. Did not find the end zone, but listen, when you can dictate the pace of a game by running the clock and averaging about 6 yards per carry, I mean, that's exactly what you like to see from the running back you just gave a 3-year contract to.
Absolutely. And you ran really well tonight. And like I said, the blocking was good. I thought Fournette was good. And how about shout out to Fournette on the long ball to Julio Jones? How about just obliterating Micah Parsons? They said they needed help over there with Parsons. Leonard Fournette gave it because, man, oh man, I noticed it right away. I was like, I think Fournette just obliterated him, and he did on the replay. So, that was a really good play in pass protection there, and that's important in this Bucs offense, as we know. If you can't pass protect, you're not going to play much in this offense. So, at times it was a little too predictable for my liking. I think some of those field goals were not turned into touchdowns because of it at times. There were spots in the game where I felt like, man, my biggest complaint was they were running the ball, but they weren't using play action off of it as much as I thought they should. I think, and obviously there's a long season. It'll play out. It'll play out, but O'Keefe is in there. When O'Keefe is in the game, it's a running play. when he is in the game, it's a running play. So that was a clear giveaway. Teams are going to pick up on that. So you can't keep doing the same stuff over and over. Overall, the run game was very strong, obviously, just by, those numbers. So I did think that at times it was predictable, but hey, we heard all offseason they want to run the ball more. They ran it a bit too much from my liking, especially when you have an offense with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, all them guys. But at the same time, maybe that was the game plan this week, and next week it could be a completely different thing. So I don't think, running the ball constantly is going to work every week either. So you're going to have to be able to adjust on the fly there. But overall for tonight, it was very, very strong.
Yeah, and as far as balance on offense, this is one of the few rare times that Tampa Bay actually ran the ball more than they dropped back to pass. Tom Brady on the night, 18 for 27, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. We'll talk about his performance here in a minute. But to wrap it up on the run game, between everybody who got a hand on the football tonight, Leonard Fournette, 21 carries, Julio Jones, the 2 carries that I mentioned. We got to see some Rachaad White towards the end of the game. Not a whole lot to take away, as it was kind of just killing time, but 6 carries for 14 yards for that young man. Jalen Darden had 1 designed carry. Tom Brady took a knee twice, so that was -2 yards. And then Rashad Perryman made an attempt. It was -7 yards on the ground for him. But I think that's a little over 30 carries, 30 rushing attempts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this one, which, for the people who wanted the Bucs to run the ball, they proved they could do it. Let's talk about Tom Brady's night, though, and some of the receivers that played a factor. As I had mentioned his stat line, let's talk about the leading receiver on the evening as big number 13, Mike Evans, believe it or not. 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown for Mike Evans. One of the most impressive one-handed catches I have seen in his career. And I think, honestly, maybe I'm a little biased. I was watching a lot of football today, but I think that was catch of the day so far.
It might have been. I'm off the top of my head, I can't really think of much else that really stood out. But obviously second greatest Mike Evans catch, maybe, as far as one-handers go, because nothing will beat that Atlanta one. But nothing's gonna beat that Atlanta one. But it was a really good catch, and I mean, it's not like he grab that thing. Like it is like, sometimes you see a one-handed catch and it's like you kind of catch it like here and you're kind of holding on to it. No, he grabbed it, and it was a good play. Like I said, that offense needed that, and it was a big time play. So good to see him get in the end zone, and the first touchdown. Mike Evans continues to be a red zone machine for this team.
Nobody in the NFL has more touchdowns on fade passes in the last couple of years than Mike Evans. He leads the NFL by a good amount. I think in his career, he has 20 touchdowns just on fade passes alone. The guy is an animal, and yet again, he picked up right where he left off that playoff game against the Rams and established himself as a dominant number one wide receiver for this team when he needs to be. But let's talk about the man that a lot of people had their eyes on tonight. Number 6, Julio Jones, making his regular season debut with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A couple of huge plays from Julio, 3 catches, 69 yards. Could have been nice. 3 catches and 90 yards, to be honest with you, because he did have that one drop there in the red zone. But aside from that, I mean, Julio Jones is back. I don't want to say it too soon. I know this is the week 1 overreaction show, but Julio Jones is back, pal.
He might be. that catch, one. Everybody thinks that 45-year-old Tom Brady's going to lose arm strength. That just show him that throw, because that throw was a rope, and evidently the Bucs thought so too, because they had him attempted a cross field pass to Julio Jones. I don't know how they thought that was going to be completed, but that Julio catch was unreal. That was like prime Julio Jones. Now he lacks, I think, the explosiveness in terms of like speed. I don't think that's coming back, but if he can give you that 3 catches a game and make that sort of impact, that's fantastic, especially with guys like Godwin and Gage, working themselves back into it. It'll be interesting to see how they work it, but if you get that Julio every week, that's tough for a defense to stop. Like I said, it's kind of like, you could see parts of it, right? There is signs of old Julio there. He's not 2017 Julio, but it's there still. He still has it, and that's all that matters for a 3rd/4th wide receiver.
And as far as the tone on offense, there were some mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. There were a couple of boneheaded penalties that they really couldn't afford. And Tom Brady did have to light a fire up under his offensive line's ass after getting sacked by the umpteenth time. But truthfully, it sounds like a cop-out, but it's week 1 football. You know what I mean? It's also important to remember that this is a process. It is a 17-game season, and the Bucs are the type of team, they've proven over the last 2 years that it takes them a couple of games to really find themselves on the offensive side of the ball. Because once they do, you better hang on. You know what I mean? Unless you're one of those teams that can contain those guys over the top and take away a Mike Evans and really get after the quarterback, the Bucs are going to move the ball pretty efficiently on you. And while they didn't find the end zone as much as people would have liked, they moved the ball fairly well. I thought between the run game, and even though Brady was, what was he again? He threw 18 for 27. I mean, not the greatest percentage, but he's over 50%. And really, for only throwing the ball 27 times, aside from the interception, that's kind of the textbook Tom Brady game you want from him and the workload you want to give him at 45 years old. I know we've had this conversation before, but it's important to mention that the more ways you can find to move the ball on offense, the better in the long run. Bucs proved they could win by running the ball today against Dallas. Can they do it next week? I don't know. Probably going to have to change a few things, but they proved today that if they have to win the game running the ball, they can do it.
Yeah, and the reports are coming out. Yeah, Dak Prescott does need surgery on his hand.
Dude.
He'll miss several weeks. So, I agree. It just, to me, the strength of this team is still, in the long term, the strength of this team is still with the passing game. And
I agree.
It looked good early on. One of the first plays was Godwin's screen 25 yards. And then you go down and you hit Evans for a nice gain, but then you stall out because, to me, you ran the ball 3 straight times. It almost seemed like you gave up on that drive. But you are right. You found another way to win. It wasn't just the same old formula. And I think Pewter Report has brought this up a lot. Maybe that's what the Bucs need to beat the Saints or beat the Rams. Maybe they need to be able to, consistently be able to run the ball and be productive with it, not pass the ball, a bunch of times, because we talked about it. Brady throwing the ball, he doesn't want to throw the ball 700 times like he did last year, or whatever that number was. So that number is going to go down. There will be times when you need Tom Brady to throw the ball 40, 45 times. There will be games where the Bucs are going to have to, because the defense is not going to allow 3 points all year in every game. So there's going to be games where the Bucs are going to have to open up the playbook a little bit. And I hope they do. I hope they're not just, content on run the ball. Todd Bowles was talking. I think it was towards the end of the third quarter or the beginning of the fourth quarter, and he was like, "Hey, I just got to run the ball." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, okay."
A little too on the nose with it there.
Yeah, I was like, "All right, sure, but let's not just because he did it 1 week, And they're and like you said, will it work next week? Who knows? Will he even try it next week? Who knows? But for this game, this was the formula that worked, and it worked out really well.
Let's be honest. You and I have been watching this team for a while. You know they're going to try it. I mean, listen, this is just a gut feeling, but I feel like they are going to try and establish the run early next week. Will it work? I mean, just like I said, who knows? But I think that's also going to depend on whether or not how soon they decide to abandon it if it gets to that point. But hey, this week, a win is a win. Let's talk about Chris Godwin before we move on to the defense here. It was exciting to see Chris Godwin back, and it felt incredibly poetic that the first snap of the season on the offensive side of the ball for Tampa Bay goes to Chris Godwin on a screen pass for 24, 25 yards.
25, yeah.
Yeah, and it was already after a penalty, backs them up, makes it 1st and 15, and they don't even have to worry about it, because here I am sitting here sweating. What a terrible way to start the season with a 5-yard holding, or I think it was false start.
False start, I think.
Yeah. Couple of boneheaded penalties. It is what it is. But they dig themselves out of a hole. He gets a couple more targets, and then he leaves the game. Obviously, I think a lot of people have been asking in chat. You mentioned it earlier. Do not have an official update just yet. Hopefully by tomorrow morning we'll have something.
Yeah, Todd Bowles said that hopefully he can get back and continue the things that he started. So from that quote, it doesn't sound too serious. It doesn't sound like he's overly concerned, which is obviously a positive thing. But I do want to talk about real quick before we move on to the defense. We talked about Chris Godwin, talked about Donovan Smith, Leonard Fournette. Don't believe that. I don't think it's serious. I think at that point they were just like, he's a little gimpy. You're up 16 points. Just take him out.
Right. Ran the ball 21 times in the game. Yeah. And I mean, once you're over 120 yards, when it's garbage time, when there's 5-6 minutes left and you're already down Chris Godwin, I know you want to pad those stats for any fantasy owners of Lenny this week, but what's the point?
Well, and you're also giving a rookie, in Rachaad White, valuable reps there as well. So, wanted to talk about the Brady pick really fast, just to get that out of the way. Just didn't see him. I think they kind of fooled him on that. I pointed out
damn single-digit jerseys, man.
I pointed out the matchup that he was looking for. I pointed out. I said you'll have one-on-one with Evans right there, and he did, and that's the matchup that he chose. But I just don't think he had any clue that Donovan Wilson was there. So, an uncharacteristic, pick by him, not too egregious. It just, you got fooled. Sometimes that's going to happen. It's uncharacteristic, but it is going to happen. So luckily, though, they were able to not let it bleed into anything else. So they unfortunately, with that, they didn't win the turnover battle. The turnover battle was even, but still, whatever, right? Whatever. It's going to happen. You're going to get fooled, and it was a pretty good play, pretty good disguise by the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, let's check in on the live chat really quickly before we talk about the other side of the football. Our moderator, Willie Beeman, holding it down, says, I hate the fact that Godwin played tonight. We did not need him tonight. And let's comment on this really quickly, because we addressed it on the pregame. We addressed it on the show with Sean King. To the crowd of people who were feeling like he was rushed back and want to place blame on maybe this coaching staff or the Bucs trainers, we also kind of alluded to it being Godwin's choice at the end of the day, but I kind of agree with the sentiment. What difference was 1 or 2 more weeks going to do at this point if he's already feeling this good? and it's that long term of an injury.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and the good news is it doesn't seem to be like a knee or anything. That's the best news. Ultimately, though, yeah, it's the team's decision, but it's also Godwin's decision. If Godwin feels like he's ready to go, he's worked his ass off to try and get back to this point. How are you going to tell him no? And if they truly felt like it was not a good idea, they would have told him, like, yeah, like, this is not a good idea. Like, we know how hard you've worked, but no. But they felt confident. He felt confident, and he looked good. He really did. And we'll see what happens. Like I said, it doesn't sound like something Todd Bowles is overly concerned with. They're gonna need him, coming up here, because they got a lot of really big time opponents coming up, obviously, as we talked about a lot. But I think for this game in particular, he was going to be on a snap count, and yet again, we don't know the severity of the hamstring. We don't know the severity of the hamstring. It could have been just a minor tweak and something that he could have came back, and then they said, you know what? No, we're not taking that chance. Like, you're not going back. He was always going to be on a snap count. And I mean, Julio Jones even seemed to be on a snap count. Every Bucs wide receiver kind of seemed to be on a snap count.
It seemed like when Julio was getting his most targets tonight, there was one drive in particular where they had the miss in the red zone. Mike Evans wasn't out there for what seemed like a drive or two. Yeah. And a lot of people wanted to say, oh, it was a hamstring injury and like maybe he had aggravated something, but we haven't gotten an update that Mike is going to be nursing anything headed into practice this week.
Yeah. Yeah. And then somebody in the chat says the red zone offense is concerning. I think that's part of the philosophy about running the ball. And something that I didn't like about the game, about the offensive game plan, but I think that'll be better as you go on. They have a ton of talent, and I'm not really worried about that. They'll figure that out.
I mean, that's also, though, it is worth mentioning, that's where you miss a guy like Rob Gronkowski, right? Because I don't think there was anybody else in the offense that Tom Brady looked to more than these last two seasons than big number 87. I mean, it's been his safety blanket for so long, even in New England. It kind of makes sense that there's still a little bit of work to be done there in the red zone offense. Not great for week one, but hey, Ryan Suckup was on it tonight. He did have the one miss, but he carried them in this game.
Yeah, if not for him, if not for him, they would have been in some trouble. So let's move on, though, to I think the brighter spot of this, and really you could say the reason they won. I think you could say the reason they won the game. It wasn't a dominating performance in terms of, oh man, 6 sacks and 4 interceptions and 3 fumbles. No, it wasn't that. But you know what it was? It was solid defensive football, and it was doing what you needed to do and the players you wanted to see it from.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it was just they neutralized Dallas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it seemed like every now and again there would be a couple of long second and third downs given up that would really piss me off.
That happens every year. It's going to happen.
I know. Bucs are pretty on brand with giving up a couple of second and 16s every week, but for the most part, plays were made when they needed to be made. We talk about the Antoine Winfield Jr. interception. That was clutch as hell. But another guy that we talked about heading into this game, and we had some bold predictions for him this season. He's off to one hell of a start.
He's making my prediction of double-digit sacks look very, very good. Shout out to Devin White.
The leading tackler for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week one, Devin White, 6 tackles, 2 assists, 2 sacks against Dak Prescott. I don't know if one of them was against Rush, but regardless.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, regardless. We talked about this guy becoming a presence in the pass rush a little bit more, and some of the big guys up front were making it easy for him tonight. It was a good night for Devin White, and of course, Antoine Winfield, too. He had the interception and 5 tackles for him. Secondary played well. I mean, I don't want to overreact here, but I think it is safe to say this is one of the more complete defensive performances we have seen in recent history from this Bucs defensive unit.
Yeah, I think so. And some of it is Dallas's miscues. I think you have to point out the pieces that Dallas was missing. Connor McGovern goes out, their starting guard. He goes out. He's actually going to miss 4 to 6 weeks.
Jason Peters didn't play. Tyler
Smith, the rookie, started at left tackle, really struggled. They didn't have Michael Gallup. They didn't have James Washington. Those are 2 pieces that could help them. So you have to acknowledge the pieces that Dallas was missing. That being said, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, Zach Martin played in this game. Like, they have talent on offense. Tony Pollard, Zeke Elliott, like, there's talent there. And the Bucs, like you say, I think you brought the great point, neutralized it. It wasn't the game never really felt in doubt. There were a few nitpick things that you could say, but besides the first drive, it really didn't feel. And you know what? The Bucs had one interception. They probably should have had 3 or 4. Devin White dropped the one that probably would have been a pick 6, which sucks because the next play I think was the Brady pick. That was the next drive, but it probably would have been a pick 6. A lot of DBs got some hands on balls, and they're going to have to catch them eventually. And will the defense have to be better? Yeah, they'll have to be better because you're going to be playing some top tier offenses coming up. The Kansas City Chiefs just made quick work of the Arizona Cardinals, and they're coming to your house in 3 weeks. So it didn't look like they missed a beat without Tyreek Hill. So that's going to be a challenge. You're going to have to be better because you're going to be better facing better offenses than this Cowboys offense. Nonetheless, it still is pretty impressive what they were able to do. Vita Vea with a sack, Anthony Nelson with a sack, and Devin White with 2. So 4 sacks on the day, an interception. It's what you wanted to see from this defense, and really just a neutralizing, but also a suffocating performance. You never gave Dallas life. They never gave them that big play, a 4th down, right? The 4th and 6. Never gave them a 4th down conversion. That's like, oh man, like when it mattered, right?
A couple of garbage time games. I mean, the same could be said about the sacks as well, but really they did their part in handling the offense for Dallas tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it was good for tonight, and it was excellent for tonight. Now you gotta keep building on it, right? Keep building on it. I thought the pressure at first was a little slow. It seemed like they started to ramp up a little bit more, though. Shaq Barrett really started to get the best of Tyler Smith there, and they had big time trouble getting him. JTS almost had an interception because of Shaq Barrett's pressure. So it was nice to see, and it wasn't a dominating performance in terms of the splash plays from the defense, but it was a good, solid, game that won them the football game. Because if this defense doesn't play up to par, who knows what does happen with the offense? Does that change their game plan? Then everything throws off kilter. So the defense certainly played really well, and a great start to 2022.
Anthony Nelson, you mentioned the late sack in the game from him. It's been nice to see him develop, to be honest with you. He notches career sack number 7, so it hasn't been outstanding, but I think it is safe to say we have seen some improvement. And with a guy like Anthony Nelson, who was drafted to be rotational depth, that's really, really important, especially as the year starts to go on, too.
Yeah, it helps when you're unblocked.
Yeah, that's fair.
He wasn't even touched. I might have been able to get that sack. But yeah, Anthony Nelson, really good job. He's developed kind of every year. And you saw a healthy bit, I think, of all 4 edge rushers: Shaq Barrett, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, Anthony Nelson, Carl Nassib. I think you saw a healthy bit of all of them. So I was impressed by what I saw overall at the pass rush. I think it needs to be better because, like I said, you're going to be playing teams with some weapons. With some serious weapons, just next week. Michael Thomas came back for the Saints. Michael Thomas looked pretty good.
2 touchdowns.
Jarvis Landry looked pretty good. They have Chris Olave. He looked pretty good. Those are weapons. So you're going to have to be better, and the pass rush is going to have to really, ramp it up. But the Saints offensive line also didn't look so great. So we'll see what happens. And, I'm encouraged by what I've seen from the defense. I thought the defense, as I said on the game preview show, on the season preview show, I thought these first few weeks, I thought we were going to see some lower scoring games because I thought the defense was going to be ahead of the offense. And right now, that looks to be the case.
Side note here, it is impressive how bad the Atlanta Falcons are at losing football games. I mean, it was a 16-point lead over New Orleans with 11 minutes left to go in the 4th quarter. I mean, they have enough of a lead to where late game situation, less than 2 minutes to play, a 3rd and 1. All they got to do is convert. Game is over. What happens? Marcus Mariota
almost lost the ball.
Muffs the snap. A lot of back and forth games today within the division. The Carolina Panthers drop one. to
the
Cleveland Browns.
A lot of ones that decided on kickers' legs.
Yeah, a lot of game-winning field goals. The Giants, they stole a win from Tennessee with the missed field goal at the end of that one. Pretty incredible finish. Brian Dable going for 2, showing off the cojones there, and they get the dub. But talking about the division, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints square off next week. That game, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to decide the momentum of the NFC South throughout the first quarter of the season, because right now, both of those teams, actually, I think the Saints might have the edge because it's a division win.
Yeah, the Saints, technically the Saints would be first because the Saints have a division win, yes.
Yeah, Bucs win next week. They are in first place in the NFC South. Obviously, if the Saints win, the Buccaneers kind of have to dig themselves out of a hole to really catch up and win that division.
And the Saints would be 2-0 in the division. So,
exactly. Yeah.
It's important, and we'll talk about New Orleans when we get to New Orleans. We've all know the story with New Orleans. We'll talk about it, but I mean, it was 26-24, and I just knew Jameis came out, and I was like, yeah, they're getting in field goal range. I was like, this will be easy.
Will Lutz had already missed one earlier in the game too, and I knew that if he got a chance, there's no way. There's just no way he was going to miss another one. And sure enough, he did not. But hey, let's wrap things up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 1 contest against the Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk about the secondary. A lot of people in the live chat have been praising the secondary, saying it was one of their most complete games they have seen from this unit. I have to agree. It seems like moving Antoine Winfield Jr. to the nickel is paying off a little bit as they get some production. But
I barely saw Sean Murphy-Bunting out there.
That's also
I saw him on special teams.
Dak Prescott, I cannot underestimate this enough. We talked about Dallas kind of being a big play offense, and that's what they focus on. Yeah, there were injuries on offense, but Dak is still a guy who can find his receivers. He didn't do that great of a job tonight. Less than 50% throwing the ball, 14 for 29, only 134 yards and a pick. I mean, that's exactly the stat line you want to see from an opposing quarterback, right? And usually when you see something like that, you assume the Bucs win the game pretty handily, which obviously they were able to do tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thoughts on the secondary?
Yeah, I thought Jamel Dean played a really good game. I thought Jamel Dean honestly might have been their best corner tonight. He made consistent plays on the ball. Was matched up a good bit with CeeDee Lamb and played well. So I thought Jamel Dean was really one of their better corners, possibly their best corner tonight. And I couldn't even tell, Antoine Winfield did such a good job that they didn't need to use any depth because, of course, Zion McCollum was out for this game. So they were really thin on depth, right? They were really thin on depth there. And it's amazing that Sean Murphy-Bunting did not play a whole lot on defense. I mean, I haven't seen the snap counts. We'll see the snap counts probably tomorrow. That's when they'll be out. But it is incredible that Sean Murphy-Bunting has sort of fallen off, and it seems like Antoine Winfield for now, and it may change based on offense that they're playing. That may change. But for now, it's definitely interesting to see Sean Murphy-Bunting sort of fall from grace. But I thought the safeties were good. I thought Mike Edwards had that nice play. I don't know if it was third or fourth down. It was fourth and 15. Nice breakup to, really end it, right? That's when you knew the game was over. So I thought the secondary overall, played really well. Thought the linebackers played well as also. Levante David with a short, just a short tackler. And the biggest thing that I took away, though, was Devin White's coverage ability. I thought he was really good in coverage, and obviously haven't watched any of the film. This is, sort of raw reaction just from watching on the television. But I thought Devin White's, I thought Devin White's coverage ability was good, and it made a difference tonight. So checking in on the chat, Emily Compass says, wasn't it surprising that Rudolph didn't play? Kyle Rudolph was a healthy scratch tonight, assumingly a healthy scratch tonight.
Hindsight's always 2020. And now that we can look back after the game and kind of talk about what ended up happening, I almost feel like Kyle Rudolph being inactive tonight may or may not have been for the better. The way that they were having Cade Otton go out there and help chip Josh Wells every now and again, especially on some of those deep shots later on in the game.
Yeah, but also Cameron Brate didn't look particularly good either. So why not give Cameron Brate an inactive, and see if Kyle Rudolph can. I'm just saying, Cameron Brate, I think John Ledger pointed out on Twitter, Brate needs to come down with that one catch on that third down where Brady was pressured. He needs to come down with that catch. Somebody else in the chat says Brady and that offensive line have me concerned. I think I don't know what your concerns are about Brady. I wouldn't have any concerns about Brady. He looked like normal Brady tonight. He only threw the ball 27 times. Normally, you're used to him throwing the ball 35, 40 times. Go ahead.
I know Brady's also been a vocal guy as far as his offensive line goes, but I think he may have been a little more unhinged than people would have liked to see in the first half of the game. I mean, he was pretty vocally upset more than a few times tonight. Not to say that the line didn't deserve it at the time, but I also think maybe for some people that's cause for concern. This is a guy who is usually as calm and composed as he needs to be until he's just not.
Yes, but when he needs to do it, he needs to do it. You know, that offensive line changed after he yelled at them in Chicago on Thursday night. Like, that offensive line changed. Like, when he needs to do it, he needs to do it. So he did it. And I don't know. The offensive line, sure. It feels like people saying, oh, I'm concerned about the offensive line. It feels like they're just reading into the media stories again. Concerned about maybe one position. Yeah. Left tackle if Donovan Smith can't go. Robert Hainsey and Luke Gedeke looked fine.
Yeah, Robert Hainsey had one of the higher win percentages on the night for the offensive line. I don't know the exact number at the end of the game, but I know for the first half he was over 80%. And for a second-year guy who's making his first NFL start, that's really not too bad.
No, like it's not that bad. And Luke Gedeke looked fine. Like, Shaq Mason, especially in the run game, looked really good in the second half. Tristan Wirfs was Tristan Wirfs. It's fine. Like, I think the offensive line is fine. Now, do you need Donovan Smith back? Yes. You can't afford to lose him long term. You can't afford that. You can't afford 5, 6, 7 games with Josh Wells as your left tackle. But for now, like, that offensive line is fine. Like that, they had to work out the kinks. I wrote an article about that on Bucks Nation that people were worrying too much about the offensive line. They had to work out the kinks in the first half. That second half, they were opening up run lanes. Brady had time. I don't know what people were seeing. It's almost like people were watching it with their eyes thinking, I know I'm going to hate this offensive line. Like, I know no matter what, I'm going to say that the offensive line is bad. Look, I think we've kind of been spoiled the past 2 years, just how good the Bucs offensive line has been. Will it be a top 5 unit? Probably not, right? It's going to take a step back. But can it be a top 10 unit? Absolutely. Absolutely can be a top 10 unit. And, I do think that with time, the offensive line will also get better. I think with time, this offense will gel more, and we'll have to wait and see. So real quick, though, before we do any final things that we got to move on to the third component of a football game. That's special teams. I want to give a shout out to the Bucs special teams unit. Kevontae Turpin. I said that I was scared to death of him in the game preview show, and he was a non-factor, basically. They really held their own against him. Jake Kamara did his job on the punts.
Man.
Kickoffs as well.
Jake Kamara, by the way.
Jake Kamara's leg is going to have to be iced up because he had to kick the ball 3 straight times.
What a nightmare first NFL career punt. Dallas and their goddamn scoreboard. That made me so mad because, like, I know that happens at least once a year, and the commentators were alluding to it as well. They have a specific rule for Dallas in particular to where, all right, we're just going to go ahead and reset, do it again. Try not to hit it this time. Like, I hate that so much. But, hey, yeah, hats off to Jake Camarda and the rest of the coverage team as well. Ryan Suckup, as we know, holding it down the way that he did. You'd like to get that miss back, but it is what it is. When you ask him to kick 5 field goals, you got to be happy with 4 out of 5 in that percentage, especially when it's a winning effort. But, that coverage team tonight, I felt like KJ Britt pretty much set the tone on the opening kickoff. It great game.
Yeah, right away. Kate Otten also had a few nice tackles on the coverage. So, like I said, what a way to make a guy, to make a guy that I was worried about. I was. To me, you have to have talent as a returner if you're doing it twice in one game. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown. I don't care if it's preseason or not. You have a talent for that. The only complaint that I can have about the special teams is that, the punt coverage on receiving it still needs some work. Jalen Darden actually looked somewhat competent tonight when receiving the punts. Rashad White, I don't believe got it. Well, he definitely didn't get a chance. Dallas really kicked off. But Rashad White didn't get a chance to receive a kickoff. But Jalen Darden on punts didn't look great, but he looked competent. And I think that's what you need from him. So, I thought that looked better. I still think the coverage was a little leaky on them punts, but other than that, and I mean, someone Jake Camarda, they got a little close to him. There was a running into the kicker penalty or punter. I thought they got a little close there. So there's some things to clean up for sure. It's week 1. It's week 1 of an 18-week season. Like, there is definitely things that they're gonna have to clean up, and hopefully this team week 1 is not the same team week 18, because hopefully the team that's week 1 right now is not as good as that team that's going to line up week 18. So that's what you got to hope for, right? You hope you're going into the playoffs with a team that is much better than what you saw tonight. And if it is, then hey, we'll be in good shape. But I think the special teams, all 3 units, they did their job. They did their job. Was it spectacular? No, I don't believe it was spectacular, but I think that they did their job. And somebody in the chat says White has to be better. I think he means talking about Rashad White. I mean,
sample size.
What do you do wrong? I don't know. He didn't really do much. He didn't really have many carries to say that he did awful. I'm not sure.
He had, I think, 6 carries for positive yardage, and he caught a pass out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what else you wanted to see out of the running back too in his first NFL career game. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I definitely think as the season goes on and the offense gets worked out every week, that's when eventually you're going to start to see his window open up a little bit more. Maybe there is a series of drives later on in the season where he is the hot hand, right? And Brady wants him out there to pass protect. He's doing that well. He's catching the ball well. Obviously, you have to wait and see with all that stuff. But, like, he didn't do anything wrong tonight, I didn't think.
No, I thought he was fine. I thought all the rookies were fine. Coke Keith played well. I thought Kate Otten played well.
Logan Hall had a tackle.
Yeah, he also. Logan Hall played a good bit. I didn't see a ton of Will Golston out there. Maybe they're saving him. But it's nice to have that rotation of defensive linemen now, that their rotation is really deep and they're able to give guys rest and give guys breaks on certain drives. So that's a positive as well. And they're able to be productive. They're not getting killed when they're out there. There were a few times they got gashed against the run a little bit. I was surprised. I was like, okay, I'm like, Nacho's a competent run defender, but I'm surprised you're not putting Vita Vea out there to sort of slow that down. Cowboys ran a little bit more than I thought they were going to, but I also think they knew the formula wasn't going to be Dak throwing it 60 times. I thought, they were going to run the ball more as well. So, like I said, I thought overall, though, all 3 phases just did what you needed to do to win a football game. And is it good enough to win consistently? Who knows? Will it need to be better to win more games? Sure. Like, it'll have to be better. But for tonight, it did the job, and they played a solid football game. And they've now won a second game in Dallas. They have now won in their history. They have now won a second game in Dallas. The last time was in 2001. So now they have finally won in Dallas again. 21 years later, they win another game in Dallas. So shout out to them. Todd Bowles earns his first win as the Buccaneers head coach. So that's also a positive, and hopefully it's something that they can build on.
Now, just for the sake of it, as we wrap up the show, looking way, way down the road. I mean, I'm talking 15, 16, 17 weeks down the road at this point. The NFC kind of had a rough outing today. We talked about the Saints beating the Falcons, but the Packers lost in humiliating fashion. The Rams lost this week as well, which could go a long way for seeding at the end of the year. I mean, a lot of NFC teams today, I know the Vikings played well and obviously things like that, but I don't think anyone is expecting those guys to be competing for the 1 seed at the end of the year. Obviously things change, but I'd say as far as the teams that you wanted to lose, aside from New Orleans, I think Bucs fans should be kind of happy with how this weekend ended up shaking out.
Yeah, I do think, besides New Orleans, I think you have to sort of be happy. Obviously with the Packers game, you sent me a tweet midway through the games and it ended up being a thing. Devontae Adams had more receiving yards today. had 141 yards. Then the other Packers wide receivers combined, they had 95 yards. So Christian Watson had a wide open touchdown, basically dropped in the bucket. He dropped it. Obviously, Packers lost 38-3 week 1 last year, and they were the 1 seed. So you can't put all your stock in the week 1, but it was good that the Rams lost and the Packers lost. Those are 2 of your top, really, a lot of people think your top 2 competitors. The 49ers lost to the Bears. Those are top competitors in your conference that people think you might be battling with for the 1 or the 2 seed or the 3 seed. So it was good. It was, like you said, besides New Orleans winning, if New Orleans would have lost, that would have made next week's game even more important, because you could have almost buried New Orleans early, but it was not to be. They're going to have to take care of business that way. But it was a pretty good weekend. You can't ask for much better. Not perfect, but nothing's perfect.
NFL football is back. Tampa Bay Buccaneer football is back, and they get the win in Dallas to open up the season. As far as injury updates, of course, we will keep you guys updated throughout the rest of the week. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Any last words, my friend?
Obviously it's by the time we're recording this right now, it's the other day. But I do want to say, obviously never forget all the lives lost on 9/11. I know we're sort of ended the podcast on a somber note, but I think it's important that, to not forget, and that, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible tragedy. So all the lives lost, rest in peace to everybody, all the first responders. You guys are all heroes. And just thankful that we're able to watch football in our homes and be able to celebrate like this. And a lot of it's because of first responders like the ones that responded on 9/11.
Absolutely. One last shout out to everybody who tuned in tonight, catching us from the Mr. Bucks Nation live stream. We truly appreciate anyone who is new checking out the show tonight. Subscribe and leave a thumbs up if you haven't already and you enjoy the content so far. One last shout to Willie Beeman, the moderator, holding it down. Keith Johnson, Bucks Time 12, TB12 Goatman, UK Prince, Froggy 75, Keith Johnson, Bucks Nation 31, Emily Compa, our buddy Owen D, and anybody else that I may have missed. We truly appreciate your support. We will talk to you guys later on this week with our mailbag show with former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Sean King. We're going to get his thoughts on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 1 victory over Dallas. And of course, we'll look ahead to the division contest between the New Orleans Saints as the Buccaneers hit the road for the second straight week in a row. Check out the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan over on Instagram at Bucs_Daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. That's the show, folks. As I said, we'll keep you posted with any Buccaneer updates throughout the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll catch you in the next one. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.